Notes with dots next to them is something that you're going to see come up in music. So let's talk about what those dots actually do. So if I had a minim, for example, remember with a stem on it, a minim is usually worth 2 beats. So I'd say, well, that's worth 2. Now you're going to see the same thing. You're going to see a minim, but you'll see a dot drawn right next to it. Now we'll talk about the positioning of the dot in a second. What you need to always remember is a dot makes everything longer. All right? So if it was worth 2, it's got to get longer than 2, can't get shorter. Now the way to think of it is the note's worth 2, the dot is going to add to it half of its value. Now if its value is 2, you've got to think what's half of 2, which is 1. So it's going to add on 1. So a dotted minim is going to be worth 3 beats. For example, if I put a crotchet, now remember a crotchet was normally worth 1 beat, but if I do the same thing and I put a dot next to it, what do you think that's going to be worth? The way to think of it is the note's worth 1, the dot is going to be worth half of that value. So half of 1 is half. So altogether that's going to be worth 1.5. Now you might be thinking, how can it be worth 1.5? We'll talk about that and what it means later. Another one, you might see a semibreve. It's normally worth 4. So if I put a dot next to a semibreve, I'll redraw that. If I draw that with a dot next to it, so just ignore that, that is going to be worth 6. That's right. So you might think, how did I get that? Well, the note's worth 4. You're going to add to it half of that, so you're going to add 2. Right, now the only other one that you don't really need to know for this level, but I'll just tell you anyway, a quaver is normally worth half. So if I put a dot next to it, what do you think it's going to be worth? Well, the answer is going to be 3/4. So again, how do I come up with that? Well, the note's worth half. The dot is going to be half of half. Now I know this is not a maths lesson, but it's good to know your maths. Half of half is 1/4. So half plus 1/4 is going to become 3/4. So just remember that dots always make notes longer.